First things first, I'm Jenna Wolfe. That's the Hall of Famer Cris Carter. That is Nick Wright. And in an unprecedented event, my partner Nick Wright has forgotten his writing utensil.
Forgot my matching Sharpie.
In this moment.
Well, I didn't forget it. I left it in the Jenna.
It is forgotten.
I was at 162 consecutive shows.
Yeah.
Having brought it.
Yeah.
It will be brought out to me shortly.
Guess what?
You are on 3 straight shows, and it took 4 Amazon orders and 7 staff members for you to be able to get pins out here.
But listen, much like LeBron James, you are only as good as the last experience you had with the pen situation.
Appreciate that. See?
Look at that.
See, you're going to hold it hostage for me?
Yes.
I'm going to get, I don't like change.
No,
this is going to make me very
You don't have anything to say today. LeBron didn't do anything today. You don't need a pen. He needs pen nor paper.
Thank you, sir.
You are in a good mood today, and we are happy for you.
America's in a good mood. Good night of sports
Well, I know
last
that
night.
You definitely are. Let's tell America why. Someone remind me the next time I'm hanging out with LeBron James not to accuse him of not being aggressive enough, because his head coach Ty Lue did that after the Cavs lost Game 1 to the Pacers. And last night in Game 2, well, let's see. LeBron scored the first Cavs 16 points in 6 minutes. He finished with 46, but the Cavs only barely won because he unfortunately has to play with 4 other players on the court. This series is now tied at 1 game apiece. LeBron was outstanding. CC, let's talk about LeBron James a little bit last night. He knew that he had to come out and play a little bit more aggressive, whether he was following social media or not. It was out there that they came out a little lackadaisical in Game 1. He wasn't going to rely on his teammates for anything. He said, don't worry, guys, I got this. And he got it.
I've seen this on other occasions, and not to overreact, but LeBron he's a basketball god with the small G. And you only see these type of performance not that often, where you know that this guy's bigger than basketball. We know that what he's got to do, Nick, there's no one who knows LeBron and his history better than him. You thought that he might come out and just be a little passive, getting guys into the flow. But LeBron knew what was at stake. Like, LeBron knows that he can't depend on this team to score the basketball. So he's got to take on that selfish mentality, which I thought that he would. He was brilliant. To be able to score 20 points in the first quarter, totally against what his natural instincts are to come out. And I've been watching this for 15 years. And even in high school, he played the same way. In high school and in the pros, his average has been the same, 28, 8.
And a 7.
That's what he's done.
Remarkable.
He's done the same thing. And it's amazing how his numbers, now this advanced, match what he did earlier in his career, but also match what he did in high school. He's an unselfish player. He's a complete player. But, man, can he be one of the best scorers ever when he wants to? Yeah, that's what he showed last night. And his team needed it. He was brilliant. And I love the fact that he went back to shooting his jump shot. My indicator going into the game was, how good will LeBron be? Let's check how many shots does he make outside the paint. And I think right early, he showed us that, man, he was going to shoot his jump shot. He was going to shoot the 3. He played great defense. And that right there, to me, that's the reason why LeBron James is a special player. That's the reason why you only see these types of players every so often in your life. That performance was an epic performance.
All right, so Cece's right that I was not certain if he was going to come out aggressive like that. I think I said on the air yesterday, if he wants to score 40, he can. I'm not sure he's going to want to. He clearly wanted to. He had the look on his face, and this is, by the way, maybe not great for the Cavs as a whole. He had the look on his face that was similar to the biggest game of his career, Game 6 in Boston, Year 2 in Miami, facing elimination. That was his 45-15-5 game that many people believe is the best game of his career up to that point, maybe still the best game of his career. And he nearly had identical numbers. He had 46-12-5 last night. And this is what I know. What I know is last night, it took a game longer than we thought, but last night was the season premiere of the 13th season of the greatest show on television, the LeBron James playoff show, and we have been welcome to it as sports fans, as everyone, every spring into the early summer for over a decade. Now, for the Cavs, that he had to go do that and that it wasn't an easy win, that's an indictment on them as a whole. But what we have seen from LeBron, he went 40, 10, and 5. He went more in most categories, but 40, 10, and 5. That's the 10th time he's done that in his playoff career. No other player has more than 4 of those instances. He was up himself 16-1 to start this basketball game. It should have been over there. It wasn't. The Pacers never gave up, and his teammates were not seemingly inspired by his play because they were just slightly better than they were the first game of this series. But they got a critical win, a win that had they lost, given how he played, it's a totally different discussion this morning.
Listen, what LeBron James did yesterday was outstanding. He knew what he had to do, and he came out and he did it. When you can have something in your head, when you can visualize it and then come out and actually stay in the zone and play the way you're playing, that focus, because he knew and you could see it on his face. You could see it when the play would stop, how focused he was. But what you said was interesting. It wasn't great for the Cavs as a whole, and I wonder if it's because when he is playing like that, it takes the rest of the team out of their rhythm. It takes the rest of the team out of that comfort zone where shots are landing, where it gives them a chance to warm up a little bit and try making a couple shots, and they start relying on LeBron James. Oh, we'll just give it to LeBron. It'll be easier with LeBron doing it. Is there any truth to that?
There is some truth to it, but the fact of the matter is if they played better, he wouldn't have to do that. If they made more shots, and even LeBron, even after the fast start, the second quarter and the third quarter, he deferred to them again. And that's what let the Pacers get back into the game. So, yeah, initially it'd be like, wow, man, LeBron, we're sitting around watching LeBron. But J.R. Smith is a guy that LeBron, he could sense what was going on. Kevin Love, like I give Kevin, he tries his best. But Kevin Love is, to me, he's not the athletic Kevin Love that we thought we were getting from the Timberwolves. So for me, I'm always a little disappointed in Kevin Love. Because is he a true number 2? No. So LeBron, it looks like LeBron in a couple halves.
Yeah.
So it becomes difficult. But LeBron did what he had to do. Given this team is offensively challenged.
Yeah.
All right. Now, I love the lineup change because the lineup change allowed LeBron also that if his jump shot wasn't going, because they spread the court with Kyle and JR, that he could get to the hole. So I did like that from the beginning.
And it's odd because I agree. JR was, I think, his second best team or third best teammate yesterday after Korver. And you look at the box score, JR had 5 points. But JR was playing excellent defense. He had a steal late.
He was fully
enormous.
engaged.
He was fully engaged except for on what could have been the game-tying 3 when he and Korver just leave Victor Oladipo wide open. LeBron was apoplectic about that after the game. But here's what we know. LeBron's the only guy in the league that going into a game like last night, he's going to show up, whether it's through distributing, scoring, or both. Last night it was primarily scoring, and give his team every chance to win. Every other great player, there's always the chance. The guy who's going to run away with MVP this year, James Harden, he had a 2 for 18 night last night. LeBron's never had a night like that in his playoff career. Every other player, there's a chance. They're just not going to have it when their team needs them to have it. That doesn't exist for LeBron. And when you look at
There's so many other things he can do. Because of his ability to rebound, his ability to be able to run the offense, those things. Last night, amazing defense on Oladipo. The time he played them, I'm going to get Dusty to run the number, the amount of minutes that he spent chasing him around. That was amazing. That was LeBron James of 10 years ago.
Was that an adjustment from game 1?
Yeah.
They had to, absolutely.
And that in and of itself is impressive.
Yes, but they had to. They had to pull out all the stops. This was, to me, like the finals.
Yes.
The lineup change,
like it.
LeBron playing defense, JR picking up. When they came out in the third quarter of the game, they picked up full court press. LeBron was in the backcourt pressing to start the second half. So, yes, they had the emphasis on winning this game. This was critical for their season.
And people will remember the one play Oladipo blew by LeBron. LeBron almost got the chase down block, and he laid it in late in the fourth quarter. But aside from that, when LeBron was guarding Oladipo, I don't have the one-on-one numbers either. I don't think Spectrum's run them yet. But when LeBron was guarding Oladipo one-on-one, he shut him down. They had to run through Darren Collison. They had to run through other members of their offense. But this is also why, on a bigger picture standpoint, I get so aggravated on the one historical knock on LeBron, the finals record, because if he drags, and it will be dragging, this team to the NBA Finals, that is a wild accomplishment. But if and when he does that, they are going to be heavy underdogs, facing either a 65-win Houston team or a 4 Hall of Famer Golden State team. And they will, I don't want to say assuredly, but overwhelmingly likely lose. And the idea that you would then look at the totality of this year and say, oh,
yeah,
another finals loss, when you look at these guys, Rodney Hood is not ready for these moments. Jordan Clarkson is not ready for these moments. Maybe by the Eastern Conference Finals they will be. But how many times did we see Hood last night just get the ball taken from him? Just give it to me. I'd like that. Thank you. Jordan Clarkson taking bad mid-range shots. Like, look, they needed every last bit of LeBron's 46 points to win this basketball game.
You wonder what this team would look like if they had a true number 2 and they didn't have to make Kevin Love their number 2. The way LeBron had in Miami with Bosh and Dwayne Wade.
Yeah. Oh, that's what they had.
He had in Cleveland with Kyrie Irving. He doesn't have a number 2
Like
right
I told
now.
him from the beginning of the season, when they traded him, they will regret that trade.
Yeah.
Because right now, you can see why LeBron has to work like that.
And Jenna, if you just quickly, if you remember the beginning of the year, you wanted Kevin, like, hey, you wanted Kevin Love to be the number 2, and we pushed back a little bit, saying for them to be their best, Isaiah Thomas has to be the number 2.
And they thought he could have been.
And they thought he could have been.
Right.
And you see now in these playoff games, if you don't have a guy who can get his own shot off the dribble, which Kyrie's as good as anyone in the league at, then it all falls on LeBron. Last night, that was enough.
LeBron James scoring almost half the team's points. That series is all tied up at 1 apiece. Coming up, further evidence now that Tom Brady is upset with the Patriots. Is that true? Next on First Things First. New topic, this one focused on the future of the best quarterback in football. And we'll get to Josh McCown in a second, but let us first chat Tom Brady. Reports were yesterday that Brady had yet to commit to playing in 2018, something we saw hints of in the last episode of Tom versus Time on Facebook. However, other reports say that all Tom Brady wants now is a new contract. Brady is due an average of $14 million for the final 2 years of his deal. So, CeCe, let's start with you. Should Bill Belichick and the Pats do whatever it takes to make Tom Brady happy at this point?
Okay, you know how I am about all those reports and everything, okay? I've been covering the league, been in the league for a long time to realize that more than half of those reports aren't true. But if Tom Brady does want a new contract, that's exactly what they should do. Now, I wouldn't be surprised that he wants more money, but I would be surprised that's the reason why he's not there this offseason. I don't believe that they run together. All right? I didn't think he was going to be there this offseason. To me, it's offseason. It's not that important. They're not installing anything. If they had a new offensive coordinator, if Josh McDaniels had taken the Colts job, they had a new offensive coordinator, and Tom Brady wasn't there, I would have some concern. I wouldn't be in a panic because it's still Tom Brady's offense. But now with what's going on, he wants a new contract, all these rumors. You know, to me, I'm just very, very careful because when you have a dynasty like New England's had, at the end, people are starting to pick it apart, saying how they can tear apart this dynasty. How can they tear apart Tom Brady's legacy? Now, Tom Brady's been underpaid for a long, long time. And I know that every person that I know from a high-level achiever, yeah, money is not always the answer, but money is always a part of a result of what you do. And to have people like Kirk Cousins and others, Jimmy Garoppolo, guys making twice as much as you, I don't know if that sits all that well with Tom, because he's human. He's human, and to see these types of numbers, it wouldn't surprise me at all that he would say, man, I've been underpaid for a long, long time, and they ain't doing me no favors with that money. They ain't going out getting weapons and everything. So that part, he's human. So that part, I would say, okay, that wouldn't surprise me. But I don't believe the contract and what he's doing this offseason have anything to do with it.
We should just let people know. He's making $14 million a year. Give me an idea of what other quarterbacks that are not Tom Brady.
$14 million would be a slight pay cut for Ryan Tannehill and Tyrod Taylor.
There you go.
$14 million is in line with what Andy Dalton is making.
There you go.
And when you say double, that's not euphemistically. That's exactly. $14 million is half of what Kirk Cousins is getting. It is just more than half of what Jimmy Garoppolo is getting. Jimmy Garoppolo, who, by the way, of course, famously shares an agent with Tom Brady. So I don't know how much Don Yee chirping in his ear on this, but he's obviously, Tom Brady, very aware of what other guys are making. And also, we should note, Tom Brady recently signed a contract extension. So I'd say, oh, well, he was fine with his pay. It was March of 2016. What's Tom Brady done since then? Oh, he's won a Super Bowl, been to another Super Bowl, and been a league MVP. Like, that's what he's done since then. So he's outperformed the contract. So I just think the question is, should you do whatever it takes to make Tom Brady happy? Yes. Like, of course you can. And I understand why, typically with teams, they don't like to set the precedent. We're going to rip up a contract 2 years early. What's that going to say to other guys on the team? What's the trickle-down effect? When it's Tom Brady, that is so much less of a concern.
Yeah, I've been in those locker rooms. I tell those guys what to think. Hey, man, you see that what he got? Yeah, absolutely. The guy deserves it. Shut your mouth. Watch your own money. All right? If there's one guy in the NFL that deserves more money, it's Tom Brady.
Right, that exactly. Like, I don't think if you all of a sudden are ripping up, if they had, I know Nate Solder's gone now, but I'm just trying to pick a good player on the team that's not Gronk or Brady, and say, you know what, Nate, with 2 years left, we're going to give you a pay raise. You've been a great left tackle for us. Then all of a sudden, you got a guy like Dante Hightower might come and say, hey, I'm as good as, nobody on that team thinks they're as good as Brady. Nobody on that team is as respected as Brady, has been there as long as Brady, and they got the money to do it. They got $14 million under the cap, and CeCe's point is a critical one. When Tom Brady has taken these below market value deals, the implicit agreement has been, I am doing that not to enrich Robert Kraft. I'm doing that so you can go out and get me more weapons.
In the last 7 years, last 10 years, Tom Brady has lost his two favorite targets. One being Randy Moss, over money. The other one being Wes Welker, over money. Now, I'm not even going to talk about Amendola, what he's done in the playoffs. He went to Miami for money. Gronk is not participating now and thinking about retirement, not because he's tired of football, for money. So all these money situations, and Tom Brady has given them the best hometown discount in the history of sports. It begins to rub on you the wrong way.
But this is what we've come to know about the Patriots. They underpay their players, and what do you get for being underpaid? You get to be there at the very end, most likely holding up a trophy. It has seemingly worked for this franchise. It's the way Bob Kraft has sort of laid everything out, and it started with the quarterback. My question is, what happened between, a couple months ago when Tom Brady was on top of the world, he wanted to play another couple years, he was on his way to league MVP, he was on his way to the Super Bowl, and then suddenly these existential questions in this documentary about family and who I am and what I'm doing, how much longer I want to play, and then suddenly, oh, now I want a new contract, and now I'm not going to show up to practices, whether he was going to or not. And I just wonder how much of that has to do with, you're hearing a lot of barking from players who have left about Bill Belichick, which we haven't really heard in the last couple of years, plus the Malcolm Butler stuff. There's a lot that happened in the last 2 months since the Super Bowl.
Yeah, the Belichick stuff is real. The Belichick stuff has always been there. Now with the media coverage and where the Patriots are. People love to pick at the Patriots. People love to try to get information on the Patriots, trying to pick apart the dynasty or trying to make what they've done, trying to take some shine off of what they've done. But Tom Brady has sacrificed a lot. And this is what I do know. Even if Tom Brady wasn't thinking about the money, when you have an agent that's negotiated a contract for twice the amount, him talking to you in your ear, that can affect you. Your wife, because I know she don't understand. There ain't no way she working for half the amount the other models are working for. No, that's real.
Yeah.
While people sitting around laughing, that's real. And I know she don't understand. So I'm sure there are other people in Tom's ear, and it makes the decisions very, very difficult.
All right, we'll talk about this a lot more over the course of the show this morning. But coming up is a new star being born in the NBA playoffs. That's next on First Things First. Back here in First Things First, it's time for stories to start your morning. Le'Veon Bell was a no-show with the Steelers' offseason workouts this week, so it's just like last year. Bell remains unsigned after Pittsburgh applied the franchise tag. Just like last year. The Steelers and Bell have until July 16th to work out a long-term deal. CeCe, any cause for concern here?
No, just like last year.
Well done.
Not concerned, just like last year. This is the story I least like talking about in the offseason. Because I'm tired of talking about it. You know he's not going to show up. Let him continue to work on the contract. Bell, he'll update us within the next week or so on the latest development.
I do like Coach Mangini's point, which is how frustrated he would always be as a coach when something like this, they were working on something. Reportedly, they were getting closer, and then the team's like, we got to put it on hold because the draft's coming up. And Coach Mangini's point was,
why?
You got 24 hours in a day. Like, you can't spend 20 minutes a day on the Le'Veon Bell situation. He's not obviously going to show up to any of these things unless he gets a deal. And if he gets a deal, he'll show up to training camp. And if he doesn't get a deal, he'll show up to week 1. It's going to be.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to take the risk of getting hurt.
Right.
Moving on to hoops, Joel Embiid has yet to make his playoff debut. Embiid has been listed as doubtful for Game 3 in Miami tonight with the series tied 1-1. We weren't sure, but now we know it is officially doubtful. Philly star has voiced frustration, saying he is, quote, sick of being babied. Nick, do the Sixers need Embiid to win Game 3 in Miami?
They absolutely can win without him. But with him, they would be, to me, a big-time road favorite. And now instead, I would go into the game looking at them as a slight underdog. I know Ben Simmons has been spectacular all year and was great in Game 1 of these playoffs and not bad in Game 2. But they are they're a team very reliant on three-point shooting. And we know those non-stars on the road, those rims get a little bit tighter. Those shots become tougher to make, even if it's not the most aggressive road crowd in the Miami fans.
Yeah, let's not forget, this team won 17 games in a row?
Yes.
17 games in a row. Now they've lost one game. Now we're in an all-out panic. I still think that they're better than Miami. It would be nice to have Embiid in the lineup going against Whiteside. They're not going to have him, so I don't believe that they need him to win tonight in Miami.
And evidently, listen, Vegas disagrees with me. Sixers, a 2-point favorite tonight.
Yep, I kind of saw that.
Oh, okay. Well, could have given me a heads up.
All right,
I thought it was Miami by a point
with
and a half.
Might be playing a little parlay tonight.
Oh, parlays. Let's get it.
I'll play parlay. There are 82 games in the NBA regular season, 82 games for your starting lineup to take the court, unless you're the Cavs. Then there are 30 different lineup changes for you to have to deal with. The Cavs made another one last night, inserted Kyle Korver and J.R. Smith into the starting lineup for Game 2, and it resulted in a Cavs win to even the series. Nick, what do you think of the move by Ty Lue, and did it have anything to do with the starting lineup?
Oh, well, I mean, listen, LeBron is the story of the game, but the second best player for the Cavs was Kyle Korver, and despite only scoring 5 points, the third best player was J.R. Smith. And most notably, Rodney Hood does not seem ready. He was taken out of the starting lineup. Jeff Green went from starter to getting, I think, 12 total minutes, and once again, not looking ready. So, yes, I think this is a lineup that's going to sacrifice defensively, but that is their best lineup to open up driving lanes for LeBron and to get the best shooters on the court.
It also leads to them being dominated in the paint. Pacers had 43 points in the paint. A better team would have beaten the Cavs. So, yes, you spread the court. You make it better on the offensive end. JR did play better defense, so he did give them a boost there. But this lineup, man, it's highly questionable. That's why I think the Cavs continue to struggle. LeBron's going to have to get 40 a game with this lineup.
All right, finally, the Rockets rolled the T-Wolves 102-82 last night. They take a 2-0 lead. Chris Paul bounced back from a very shaky Game 1 to drop 27 points and 8 assists in Game 2. Gerald Green came off the bench to add 21 points. Don't worry about what James Harden did. It wasn't much. Nick, is there any slowing down the Rockets at this point?
I mean, not till the Western Conference Finals at the earliest. And I want to talk about Chris Paul and James Harden for a moment, because James Harden was amazing in Game 1 and Chris Paul was not so good. Last night, Chris Paul was spectacular, and James Harden had one of the worst games of his career. 2 of 18 from the field. It was John Starks Game 7-esque for our Knicks fans watching. Here's the thing. When these two guys came together, the discussion was so much around how are they going to coexist that an under-discussed point was what it gives the Rockets when just one of them's on the court. What you now have in Houston is the ability to have a triple-plus point guard play for 48 minutes a game. Now, when they're both on the court, that's a bonus. But when Harden last night, and I understand it's because of the fourth quarter, they're blowing him out, but he only plays 30 minutes. Chris Paul only plays 30 minutes. But when the game's in question, one of them is on the court at all times. And now if you're Minnesota, you've had one game where Harden was the only guy that showed up, and you still lost. Another game where Harden had his worst game of the season, and you still lost. They still haven't played the Rockets, firing on all cylinders, and they're down 0-2.
The only team, Jenna, you and I had this conversation earlier this morning. Is there another team that could have their best player go 2 for 18 and they win in the fashion for which they won? And you look at the Eastern Conference, we know that not to be true.
No.
And we look in the West, you say, well, maybe Steph, maybe KD. No, even Golden State wouldn't be able to been able to endure a performance by their superstar like Harden went through last night. So that right there puts Houston in a special category, but their ability to play defense. When we see teams that are this efficient offensively, typically, besides Golden State in the history of basketball, they're not in the top 5 defensively. That's where Houston is now. So now, when they don't have one of their superstars making shots, they have the ability to be able to play great defense, which gives them the ability to win more games. That's how you're able to win 65 games in the NBA, and that's what I believe makes this Houston team more special. Harden last night, he talked about his shot will be back, but his ability to be able to switch, because defensively they were switching 1 through 5. But his ability to be able to play the post players and his improved defense, that's what his teammates talked about after the game. Not his shots, not how many shots he took. They talked about his ability to be able to concentrate on the defensive end and how much improved he is on that end.
And on the flip side of things, the story for Minnesota after Game 1 was you need more out of Karl Anthony Towns. You can't get outplayed by Clint Capella. That's the one matchup Minnesota going into the series had a clear advantage. And he has 5 points on 9 shots. Jimmy Butler took 6 shots. Minnesota, the way they're distributing their shots, when Wiggins takes as many shots as Towns and Butler combined, you got a problem. And you saw it last night where they get blown out in a game where Harden's terrible.
All right, let's move on to the other big game last night. Anytime you can say, hey, I'm better than Michael Jordan at something basketball-related, that's impressive.
Who can say that?
Donovan Mitchell, the Utah rookie, can now say that, CC. Thunder Jazz Game 2. Mitchell went bananas again, had 28. He's now got 55 points in his first 2 playoff games. That's more than Michael Jordan. That's more than any rookie guard ever in his first 2 playoff games. That and the fact that the Thunder Big Three went 0 for 14 in the fourth quarter, that helped the Jazz win. That series now tied at 1 game apiece. Nick, how impressive has Donovan Mitchell been?
Listen, that stat there's a real thing now. Guards as rookies in the playoffs, you do not see this level of scoring. It's no surprise that the guy who held the record is the guy widely considered to be the greatest basketball player ever. It's no surprise that no rookie guard has approached that record recently. And to see this guy do this, and not a rookie because he played 6 years in Europe, not a Tim Duncan rookie who played 4 years in college, not even a Ben Simmons rookie who had the redshirt year. Nah, I was in high school 2 years ago, played 2 years at Louisville, and now I'm going to go out and bust people in their head. Like, this guy is, as a scoring force, the only recent player I can compare him to stylistically is Dwayne Wade. Young Dwayne Wade. I am more athletic than you, I am fearless, and I am getting to the rim. And if you stop me from getting to the rim, I am not afraid to beat you with my mid-range.
Yeah. Mitchell, a lot better shooter than Dwayne Wade will ever be. I mean, he made more three-pointers than any rookie in NBA history. As far as the Jordan numbers, too, you're comparing when the defense was totally different, too. And all the rookies at that time, they were grown men. They were 3-4 years in the league. So Michael Jordan, it was impressive. Mitchell's doing it in an era where rookies are having more success. Tatum in Game 1, the Celtics. Jaylen Brown, Game number 2. Simmons in Game number 1 for Philadelphia. And we've seen Mitchell in 2 games. So in this new NBA, where it's wider open as far as the pace and the court is more wide open, and you can't do the things defensively, you should get used to seeing more rookies do what Mitchell did. And we've seen that throughout the playoffs. It's easier to score the basketball, and his ability not to be able to shoot the deep three and get to the hole, that's what makes him so dangerous at this point, because you can't guard him out by the three-point line because he can get by you, and he's so explosive at the hole.
And the Thunder tried. They moved rests on him. They switched guys around to try to stop him, and they doubled. They just couldn't.
They had no answer. Listen, Donovan Mitchell, and I understand the league's changed. I understand it's less physical. I understand it's more wide open. But the league didn't draft. Hold on. See, though. The league didn't.
I mean, Jaylen Brown went for 30.
Well, he's second-year player, though. So there's a bit of a difference. Like,
right.
But here's the thing, though. Even if we want to say the league has changed drastically from when Jordan was there, hasn't changed drastically from 2 years ago, or it's changed somewhat from 5 years ago, and no rookies come close to this mark. Like, I have never, one of the reasons I was skeptical of the Celtics early in the year, when we were talking a ton about Jason Tatum, is I remember saying on the show, you remind me the last rookie to make a major impact on a quality playoff team. Well, right now, we do have 3 of them doing it. Jason Tatum, the guys you mentioned, Jason Tatum, Ben Simmons, and Donovan Mitchell. But this level of scoring he was on the court last night with probably three future Hall of Famers, Russ, Paul George, and Carmelo. I don't know if Paul George will get there. And he was the best player last night. Like, I want to give, I know people are going to focus, and I know we're going to talk about what the hell happened to the Thunder in the fourth quarter. I want to give this young man his credit because he was extraordinary, and they stole a game. And now all of a sudden, they have home court going into Game 3.
I think the most impressive thing, he went into the game, he was questionable. Had
a
foot
bruised
contusion.
Foot, yeah.
Yes, got his foot stepped on in game number 1, and the ability to be mentally tough. That's the thing that the staff there in Utah and the other players have said about him. He has a veteran mentality.
What do you think about this series?
Well, I
mean, have you changed based on what you saw last night from Donovan Mitchell?
Oh, I think Utah's going to beat him.
Yeah, I mean, I had Utah going into the series to win it. I think Utah's a better team. Utah, since Rudy Gobert got back in the lineup, has been one of the 5 best teams in basketball. I think it's a tough matchup for him. Now, I didn't see OKC going through that drought in the fourth quarter. Cece, this was
the 0 for 14 drought from the Big Three.
The Big Three, Melo, Paul George, Russ, 0 for 14 in the fourth quarter. Cece, last night was the first time I can remember watching Russ in a close game in the fourth quarter and thinking, why aren't you shooting? Like, be more aggressive. Like, he had lost, I don't know if it's confidence or what it was, but he had lost.
I thought I was watching the preseason. Like, this was one of the first times that all 3 of these players had played together. And you would think, no, this is the postseason. They looked like they did not have any type of chemistry. They had no go-to play. There was no one spot on the court that any one of these players wanted to get to be able to get their shot. Like, these guys have closed out games for franchises. Russ has done it. Paul George has done it. And Melo has done it. They looked disjointed last night.
And it came at such an odd time. Utah was up 67-58, and OKC goes on a 19-0 run. The moment that run ended, I believe on a Donovan Mitchell basket, the rest of the game, Russ, Paul George, Melo, combined to go 0 for 16 with 2 points. Like, they had taken back control of the game. They had a 10-point lead. And from that moment forward, they get outscored 35-18. Your 3 best players don't score. Steven Adams fouling out was a huge problem for them. Like, that's a game that the Thunder could have and did take control of, and they gave it right back to Utah.
Russ said after the game, we have to be more aggressive. Is it about being aggressive, or is it about just stepping up and just taking more shots and taking more shots? Or
the NBA is a make or miss league. You got to make shots in critical time. All right? They got the shots they wanted. They weren't making shots. They were being aggressive, but Utah also is a very good defensive team because on the perimeter, they can hug you on the three-point line because they have a rim protector in the back. One of the few teams that can do that.
Right. The Rudy Gobert factor was in full effect yesterday. People were afraid to go challenge him, and so that's why they were shooting so many threes. Those big 3 were 1 for 11 from 3 over the final 13 minutes. Here's a prediction, though. I'm setting the over-under at Russell Westbrook shots in the next game at 27.5. If they're going to lose, they're not going to lose another. Russ is not going to go down not shooting. If they're going to go down, he's going to go down shooting.
All right, we'll take a break there. Coming up, did the Dallas Cowboys make a big mistake cutting Des Bryant? Next on First Things First. Back here on First Things First, Super Bowl champ Greg Jennings is here. Hi, Greg.
Good to see you, Greg.
Good to be seen.
How is it going?
It's going great. A nice rainy morning this morning.
Yeah, that's been our spring
New
so
York
far.
was nice yesterday, though. It was nice yesterday afternoon.
Rain.
That's not a
Nice.
complaint. I'm in Minnesota.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's a
was-
good
Okay.
point.
Let me
Very
clarify
good.
that.
It's a good point.
We'll
Y'all act
take
like
that.
y'all work outside.
More fallout now, Greg Jennings, from the Cowboys releasing Des Bryant. From 2012 to 2014, Des had nearly 4,000 receiving yards. The next 3 years, he had just over 2,000, cut in half if you're doing math. Still, Des didn't blame his poor play for the reason he was cut. Instead, he blamed, quote, Garrett's guys, in a reference to the team's head coach, Jason Garrett. Garrett himself, though, said the decision to cut number 88 was a tough one.
It's a challenging situation. A lot of different factors go into these kinds of decisions. And again, the guidepost for all of us is what's in the best interest of the Dallas Cowboys. And that's why we made this decision. We wish Dej nothing but the best going forward. He's a special guy. I love him. I will always love him. And the impact that he made on this franchise has been significant.
Greg, we all know that Dez has had diminished production over the last few years, but how hard will it be for the Cowboys to now replace what it was he did give them?
Over his career, it would be a challenge. Over the last 4 seasons, as you alluded to, that won't be hard for them to replace. Dez Bryant has done some great things for the Cowboy organization. I think what Jason Garrett, what we heard, was his true sentiments. When you're a coach, you're developing relationships with these players, and you're not really, we know Jason Garrett isn't making the decisions to sign and release guys. That's not his deal, but he has relationships with these young men. He understands the developmental process. He's been there with Dez Bryant. But to be able to replace that production, it's going to be a collective effort. And, I mean, they were going to get a receiver this year, maybe 2. Dez was hindering the growth of Dak Prescott. And at the end of the day, when you're looking at the Dallas Cowboys, they don't need a whole bunch. But what they did need to do was remove a couple pieces and now insert some more. And Dez just, at this point in his career, he wasn't getting it done, bottom line.
I think that last point you made about Dak is the key one. How do you replace Dez Bryant's production? I don't think the answer is Allen Hurns. I don't think the answer is if you draft a wide receiver, even if you get Calvin Ridley in the draft. I think the answer is the way you replace Dez Bryant's production is through an improved Dak Prescott. I think we showed you the numbers all last year that Dak Prescott was one quarterback when it came to interception percentage or completion percentage, throwing to everyone but Dez, and a far worse quarterback throwing to Dez. I don't have numbers for it, but I just know from talking to people, whatever negative effect he had on, I don't want to say Dak's psyche, but almost Dak's confidence with whether it was griping or whether it was just a fire to win, but that type of, the attitude that didn't necessarily resonate well with the quarterback, that if removing Dez, because you can't make just an X's and O's football argument, Cowboys got better by cutting Dez Bryant. Their salary cap situation got better, but on the field, even a diminished Dez Bryant is better than no player at the position. They didn't trade him. The only way you're saying they're getting better is if they think the offense can be more, have greater variety, and if the quarterback is going to play with more confidence and play better without having the specter of Dez Bryant looming over him. So I think that is the answer to the question.
I think it's very, very important when you get in a situation like this. The question is the productivity. What does it take to replace his productivity? It doesn't take a lot. Dez was 28th in the NFL in yards last year. So actually, 27 other receivers had more yards. When you're talking about getting 800 yards in an NFL game, you're 800 in an NFL season, you're talking about 52 yards a game. Now, I'm not going to say that at this age that I could do that, but I'd be willing to bet a lot of money Greg Jennings could get in the NFL game and get 52 yards. So you're talking about he hasn't played at a high level. They've paid him at the highest level you can pay someone. So let's not trip. His productivity, it can be replaced. I don't believe that wide receivers make quarterbacks bad. All right, so it's easy to sit around and be like, oh, because they cut Dez. Oh, man, Dez's effect on Dak. Man, Dak wasn't that good. All right, so a great quarterback affects a wide receiver and can make him better. But a wide receiver who's pretty good, he don't make a quarterback go from good to bad. All right, so let's not blame all this on Dez. Now, a wide receiver, Greg, and I can tell you, we can have an effect on the psyche. We can have an effect on what they're going to do with the football. We can have an effect on that quarterback and what he's looking at on a play-to-play basis. But Dez Bryant's productivity, it can be replaced, and it will be replaced in Dallas.
And the Cowboys obviously know that. They didn't offer him a pay cut to stay. They said, we're good. Whether it's Allen Hurns or someone else, we're going to be just fine with whatever else we have available to us. It's just not going to be you.
Yeah, and I think, again, to CeCe's point, when you talk about a guy and his impact on a quarterback at the receiver position, the impact is when you are demanding and demonstrative about getting the ball, that plays on the quarterback's psyche. That's what he's talking about. Okay. So in that regard, I think it now frees up a Dak Prescott to go out there and just play. And I have options. I have other guys that I know I can get the ball to. That's not going to be when I walk to the sideline in my ear, or I'm not walking to the sideline thinking, man, I didn't even look at this. So I know I'm going to hear something, regardless if it's this game, but leading up to the next game and prolonging into the week. And that mentally weighs on a quarterback, especially a young quarterback. Yeah. So I think that was what the Dallas Cowboys was really looking at.
One thing Greg and I think what's really important right now is that offense needs one voice. Now, us wide receivers, man, we talk a lot. Some of us more than others. But we can be a burden to an offense. We can be a burden to a young quarterback. But at this time, what Dallas has with that offensive line, with Jason Witten as the senior guy on that offense, with Ezekiel Elliott coming back after no offseason controversy, all the conversation this offseason about Dak, about Dez.
Yeah.
Zeke's going to have a monster year. The way that offense is focused, they need one voice, and it needs to be Dak. So for me, that's where they really came up. It's not the salary cap money. It's not. It's Dak's voice now can be the dominant voice for that offense. That's what's really important for Dallas right now.
All right. Greg, stick around. Coming up, should the Patriots trade up to find Tom Brady's replacement? I can't believe we're even asking such things. That's next on First Things First. Speaking of Tom Brady, the Patriots might be looking for his replacement in the draft. According to a report, the Patriots have expressed interest in drafting Josh Rosen.
Yeah.
This amid reports that Tom Brady hasn't committed to playing in 2018 and that other reports that the quarterback wants to rework his contract. Greg, should the Patriots go all in to build around Tom Brady, or should they focus on his eventual replacement? Which direction do you think this franchise should be going in?
This is an interesting question. They already are all in on Tom Brady. They are all in on, when you're on a roster and you are the guy, we're all in on you. Now, do they need to add some pieces because they have gotten rid of some pieces? Yes, but are they all in on Tom Brady? Yes, they're all in on Tom Brady, but they understand the business. I have to prepare for my future. Mm-hmm. And when I'll compare it to a situation in Green Bay. Brett Favre kind of did this to the Green Bay Packers, where every offseason began to now become, and I'm not saying this is what Tom Brady is doing, but now is he going to come back? Is he not going to come back? The older you get, the more committed a team has, the more committed you have to be to the team versus the team being committed to you. Meaning, I need to know, are you in or are you out? Because we're in on you. We just need to know if you're in on us. And so with this, with Tom Brady getting older, him not being there, that's no issue. But my concern is if this continues to happen every year now, off season, now all of a sudden we want to know, is Tom going to come? Is he all in this year? Is he playing? They can't play that game. So they have to go all in on a quarterback. They have to.
So quick follow-up. If you are going after a quarterback, you're still all in on Tom Brady?
Yeah, you're all in. Your quarterback's not going to start. He's not going to start. He's going to sit behind Tom Brady. He's going to learn for a year or two whenever Tom decides to hang it up. But I have to prepare now. They lost Jimmy Garoppolo, who was their future backup plan to Tom Brady. He was right there in the wake, going to take over, smooth transition.
Right.
That didn't happen. Now they're scrambling, and they have to find a guy who can at least be an understudy for whatever time they possibly can have behind Tom Brady.
The Patriots, they have on their board in their draft room right now, they have off-season needs. Lost Nate Solder. We need a left tackle, either through free agency or the draft. One of those needs is they need a backup quarterback. They also potentially, in that, they need a quarterback of the future. So in trying to develop this year's team, which they're going to try to win the Super Bowl, they're also going to try to develop a team for 2019. in 2020 because they know they're still going to be competitive. So they will handle both of them within each other. If you look at the two last off seasons, New England has gone all in.
Yeah.
Man, they made draft. Man, they was trading people. They got a receiver in Brandon Cooks. They traded for another defensive lineman. They thought would pan out. Like, they have been all in on Tom Brady. But just because you decide to draft a quarterback, that don't mean they're not all in on Tom Brady.
I agree. Just if they use one of those second-round picks on Mason Rudolph, or we're gonna have Joel Klatt on later in the show. He likes the quarterback out of Richmond. Like, if they use if they don't trade up and they use a second-round pick on one of those guys, then you're still all in on Tom Brady. The Josh Rosen discussion, unless people think Rosen's going to have an Aaron Rodgers-esque fall in the draft, the Josh Rosen discussion is about, would you package 23 and 31 and maybe something else to move into the top 10 to go get this quarterback? And that, if I'm Tom Brady, is not what I want to see this team do. I do not want to see this team, when I'm 41 years old, use picks that could net me 2 or 3 contributors this year.
At 41, don't you think Tom knows that this year's
absolutely.
draft, like
It's time.
That this year's hold on. That this year's draft what? I just want you to finish your
this
thought.
year's draft, like his replacement is coming out this year's draft?
Well, the thing is,
Greg and I have been there. We know it's coming.
It's coming.
98, they drafted Randy Moss. How long do you think I had there in New England? There in Minnesota?
Well, you ended up having what, 5 more years?
Because I was a great player.
Right.
And because of my prime had been extended. That's the only reason. That's the only thing that held him off.
Right,
and with acquiring Randy Moss, you never really looked at the rearview mirror saying, "Oh, this guy is just going to flat out." No, I'm going to do I'm going to do me, but knowing this is the future.
But there's also, with the wide receiver position, obviously 2 guys get to play at once. And you know how highly I regard your playing career. But I mean, Tom Brady also a great player, like a guy who obviously has talked
If all the rumors about Tom Brady and him being paranoid of Jimmy Garoppolo.
Right.
No, why don't?
But that's it.
Of course,
making the same point.
That lets you know he was conscious of it.
Of course, but which is why
if he was conscious of it 2 years ago,
even more conscious of it now, which is why I think it's one thing if they do what they did with Jimmy, spend a second-round pick on a quarterback, need a backup quarterback, need potentially a quarterback in the future. If the Patriots package picks to move into the top 10 to draft a quarterback, that is sending a strong message to a guy who has said, I want to play Tom 45.
Look, yesterday, man, we talked about Aaron Rodgers, what the organizations do. Now we're talking about Tom Brady. Like, things just don't work like this, Nick, all right? They have to go. When Tom made that documentary, Tom vs. Time, he didn't think the people in business with him are watching that. They would be idiotic not to. And if they think Josh Rosen, they have him rated that high, and if they can get him for those 2 number ones ain't gonna do them that much good. They need to get the quarterback of the future and get it right now.
What kind of blows me away about this is it happens every single year. All 32 teams are doing the same thing the New England Patriots are getting ready to do. They're looking for their future quarterback. I don't care who the Green Bay Packers are a prime example of having not really taken advantage of grabbing a quarterback that they feel can be the successor to Aaron Rodgers. The New England Patriots had done that. In losing Garoppolo, now they have to do that again, and they're more pressed to do it now because of the age
That's why
factor.
you can't wait on the second round.
No, you cannot.
Because your quarterback's going to be 41.
That's why the question is, are you all in or are you looking towards the future? Because if you're all in, maybe you don't worry about that because you know he's going to be there. You have a guy who could at least stand in the pocket, and you go get a guy that can help you this year. That's all in.
My point is they are already all in on Brady. He's going to be their guy. He is their guy.
But all in means trying to win again this year. Get a guy that could actually play this year.
They have other responsibilities. No. You guys are trying to jam too much. There's other responsibilities besides Tom Brady. And that is we need a quarterback of the future. And because of what happened with Garoppolo, they are in crisis now. They must get a franchise quarterback in this year's draft. There's not a lot of franchise quarterbacks in the second round.
I totally agree, and I have not sat here and said, you guys know how much I like this particular quarterback, Josh Rosen. I have not sat here and said, I wouldn't do that if I were New England. If I were New England and I could get Josh Rosen and we could do a Favre to Rodgers, Montana to Young, Manning to Luck type of handoff, that is the golden scenario. I'm not saying it's the wrong move. I am simply saying if I were Tom Brady and I'm making $14 million a year, and I'm considering, even if it's just slightly, retirement already. You go out and trade those picks for Josh Rosen, that pushes me a hell of a lot closer to the retirement bucket than the I want to keep playing for another 3 or 4 years bucket, because it tells me the team is already considering me like closer to the retirement.
Well, they have to
Nick,
know
what
that.
else they go? Nick, you had him before the season. No guy in NFL history. No guy we have never seen at 39. Hold on. No, hold on. Hold on.
Right.
That's all you did, Nick.
I agreed, which is why if I were running the Patriots, this might be the move I would make. I'm simply saying if I'm Brady, and I just did a documentary saying I want to play till I'm 45. And we almost won the Super Bowl last year. Maybe we would have if we had another defensive back, another player. And you're going to package a bunch of picks to go get a guy that while I'm here won't see the field? Like, of course. Like,
Okay, do you believe Tom Brady's going to play this year?
I do believe he's going to play.
All right, do you believe he's going to play next year?
In 2019?
That's the next year.
Okay, no, I just want to make sure I understood the question. I think what they do in this draft could affect that.
Your hesitation right there lets you know you got to get a franchise quarterback.
Absolutely.
When you don't have an answer, you got to get yourself a quarterback.
Cece, but we don't disagree on that. My point is this.
This is your problem. Stop being Tom Brady. Tom Brady knows they're going to get a replacement for him. So if you were thinking like Tom Brady wouldn't be surprised at all if they packaged those two and went up and if they thought there was a guy they were in love with, Tom Brady would not be shocked at all if they did that. So if you're thinking like Tom Brady, you need to think that way, like a football player.
And just to add, really, Tom Brady has always used something to fuel him every single year. What would be different now? Nothing. You go get a first-round guy, you package some deals together, and you go get a first-round guy, you sit him in the room, and you expect me to teach him and tutor him and to replace
Every move that you're doing is not based on trying to win this year's Super Bowl. You can't be just stuck on this year. Football is not going to end after this year. When Tom Brady retires, football is not going to end. You have to plan for the future so you can be totally in bed with Tom Brady and also thinking about the future. You can't run an NFL franchise. You can't be one of the most successful franchises in sports history, the Crafts and Belichick, if you are not thinking that way.
All right, we got to leave it right there. Greg, thanks so much for hanging out with us. Appreciate it. Up next, get back to LeBron James. Will he ever lose another playoff game for the rest of his life? That's next on First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe, and thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Make sure to subscribe and tell your friends, family, and coworkers about the podcast, which, by the way, is available on iTunes and all your favorite podcast apps. You can catch a fresh new episode every Monday through Friday on FS1, starting at 6:30 a.m. Eastern, 3:30 a.m. Pacific. So long, everyone.